KraneShares webinar, KOID, Humanoid Robotics Breakthroughs in Asia and Robosense's Vision. My name is Brendan Ahern. I am the Chief Investment Officer here at KraneShares Exchange Traded Funds. Here at KraneShares, we are big believers that we are on the precipice of a significant leap forward that will transform our lives, our children's lives and beyond, and that is the innovation, the development, as well as the production of humanoid robotics. As frequent travelers to Asia, we've gotten a glimpse of what the future will look like, and we wanted to bring that future to you through some great videos, as well as leveraging a recent trip from my colleague, senior investment strategist Derek Yan, who spent some time visiting a host of robotics companies, humanoid robotics companies in mainland China, as well as we have the opportunity to leverage the expertise of one of our investments in our KOID ETF, which we've recently listed just last week on the London Stock Exchange and have here listed in the United States as well. And that is Tom Huang, Director of Robosense, a leading provider of LiDAR technologies, a company highly geared to the continued growth of robotics as well as humanoid robotics. So we're looking for, obviously, leverage the real boots on the ground opportunities we've seen and leverage the expertise of both Derek as well as Tom. Please, we really want to have a very healthy interaction with our audience, so please email any and all questions to info@kraneshares.com, as well as if you're joining us online, you can use the Q&A button. In terms of an agenda, Derek's going to provide a bit of an overview of the new KOID ETF, and then we're going to show some video, as well as obviously have a little bit of an overview of Robosense, which is listed in Hong Kong, and again, one of our holdings. And then we'll do some Q&A with Tom as well. We do have CE credits for CFP and SEMA licensees. Please email us at CECharlieEdward@KraneShares.com. For those of you maybe a little bit less familiar with KraneShares, our founder, Jonathan Crane, moved to China in the early 2000s, where he established a business geared to China's growing urban middle class. And John's time living and building a business in Shanghai and traveling across China, he saw how the adoption of the mobile phone, really, how the mobile phone was transforming the lives, as well as how the Chinese population bought things, how the cell phone was becoming your entertainment center, your social media, how you pay for things. And that really led to John's belief that these new China technologies were underrepresented in global indices, particularly those geared to not only China, but broader emerging markets, as well as actually when John moved to Shanghai in 2001. So when the first foreign investors were allowed to invest into China's onshore market, the Shanghai and Shenzhen market, but he saw how the liberalization of Chinese capital markets were providing further access to the second largest stock market in the world, onshore China. And so these two theses, that these new China economic sectors were underrepresented in global benchmarks, and then also the access into the mainland market would allow for global index providers to add the second largest stock market in the world to global indices, was John's founding of KraneShares back in 2013. You fast forward to today, we have a suite of new China economic sector focused ETFs. We're obviously well known for globally for our KWEB, the largest China ETF listed here in the United States. arguably the largest China ETF globally, accessible to global institutions due to executive orders, CFIUS. But we have a whole host of other thematics, K-Green. I think really a really interesting way, if you think about the importance of energy is going to be to AI development, and China's the global leader of clean technology. I really think K-Green's an interesting play. But we obviously have Starboard, which is geared to the semiconductor market onshore, but we've also taken things that we've seen in China and applied it to broader emerging markets. And so while KWEB is this growth factor for China, we have KEMQ, the EM version of KWEB, really strong performer, not only year to date, but 2024. We've also seen trends we see occurring in China that we think will have a global nature, and that led to cars. One of the first global electric vehicle ETFs listed back in 2017, and very similar. That really is very aligned with the U.S. and London listings of KOID, where we've seen in our travels, not just in China, but in broader Asia and Japan, and for myself, just recently in South Korea, we're seeing the advent of not only robotics, but certainly humanoid robotics, and that this is a global trend, and this is why we listed KOID. For those who are looking for in-depth information, please go to KraneShares.com/KOID. And I think this really, on the next slide, this is really why we want to bring KOID to investors. And I think there's nothing like seeing is believing. And I know when we listed KOID on the NASDAQ exchange, it was we had the RoboStore, the Unitree distributor of their robots here in North America. They were generously brought one of their G1s, a Unitree robot, to the NASDAQ. And then we had the RoboStore Unitree G1 running around Times Square. And then we replicated this same experience in London at the London Stock Exchange. And I think obviously not all of us are going to today are able to interact with a robot, but I can only use the term the precipice because we're seeing this acceleration in production occurring in China. We're seeing these robots in Asia, and I think that's going to be coming to not only here in the U.S. but in Europe. And I can't think of a better way than really understanding this opportunity set by handing things off to my great colleague, Derek, who again is fresh off a trip visiting a number of humanoid robotics makers in China. You know, Derek, love for you to provide an overview of the KOID ETF for the audience, and then we'll get into your recent travels, and then I obviously want to leverage having Tom Huang of Hong Kong listed Robosense here joining us.
Thank you, Brandon. Yeah, that's like a great intro. I mean, like for the global investors, like, the AI is kind of like the opportunity that everybody knows, but like when like AI now is transitioning to our physical world, where kind of like they call it embodied AI or like physical AI, what's really application we think is really in the next generation of robotics. So mainly like humanoid, quadruped, drones, right? So all kinds of like new machines, new shape of robotics gonna change the industry of automation going forward. So that's why we believe a lot of like legacy ETF around robotics, really around like automation in the factories, industrial arms, and those like being developed 10 years ago, and that's matured. But then the future of robotics is really missed or underrepresented in the investor's portfolio. That's why we notice this trend of embodied AI and the opportunity across those applications, across humanoid and all kinds of applications like in other forms as well, and put together a portfolio. So as Brandon just mentioned, like KOIBot is kind of like It's now famous on social media, ringing the bell, Nasdaq and London Exchange. But there's a lot of those models recently, right? Like if you notice what like Tesla presented in their factories, they like Elon mentioned like Optimus is going to be the majority of Tesla's business going forward. And you have so many like startups here in the United States. 1X, they have presented like their model doing like choices, the dishes washing, and all kinds of like choice work in your home. You have Figure AI training their own model. They call it like vision language action model to really understand human instructions and can do generalized tasks. And recently they raised like $1 billion with the valuation of 39 billions. That's like unbelievable. Just looking at like how exciting this opportunity from all the institutional investors in the US. In China, of course, you have Unitree G1 is really like a fascinating model. As Brendan mentioned, we have seen the running, the move, the actions like on Times Square, like people can't believe this is the current technology. People like if you're coming from the R2D2 or kind of like recently you have like previously I think you have like Boston Dynamics showing some like demos, but like now with like Unitree G1 in our real life, in your like your eyes, you see it move. You come like it's hard to believe the technology is really advanced in such a fast pace. And of course, there's many other startups in China, including like Ubitech and many like models, many model company and humanoid company I have visited in China. So what is driving this kind of like boom in the humanoid industry? We believe is the AI. Previously, AI is really happening in the digital world, where we already create like so many like $1 billion or $1 trillion companies in like OpenAI, NVIDIA, things like that is really going to reshape our economy in a digital world. However, like those AI researchers, they realize there's a big potential or even much bigger economic opportunity that exists in our real world. So that's why a lot of researchers now started training what they call the embodied intelligence or the physical AI models. So those AI now incorporating the vision data and also the action data. So those data are just like unbelievably, we think like this is kind of like the early moment for the physical AI training, which can, in the years to come, can create another GPT moment for the physical AI. Why would I say that? Like you look at like Google DeepMind or XAI, they're now developing like a world model where they incorporate the old like the digital data and like more like real life data now to create like a environment that the AI can actually interact with that environment. And also then you have a lot of like companies, for example, like Figure AI or Galbot in China, incorporating the large language models. They call like vision, language and action model that can you can give instruction to the humanoid, and the humanoid can understand the human input, and also with their vision, they can understand their environment, and the action can be trained as well. So a lot of companies use the human feedback, like the human demonstration, and a lot of companies, like for example, NVIDIA, creating a digital world like the Omniverse, where you can create like synthetic data to really making this training process more scalable. Like NVIDIA on the GTC conference announced like the first open source humanoid robotic foundational model. That is kind of like a milestone, I think, going forward for a lot of AI researchers to create the GPT moment for the embodied intelligence. So why all of a sudden all the big tech giants and all the startups are betting on this category? Because there's a huge demand. If you look at like our economy today, we have aging population and labor shortage in the United States. And things are even worse in Asia, like Japan, like China and Germany. Like a lot of the economy today in our world is facing the similar problem. We have been using a lot of like kind of like machines in the factory, like industrial arms and many automation tools. But so far, the demand for labor to finish that last mile of automation is still challenging. That's why like you have all kinds of projection that the humanoid robotics gonna gonna address this issue at scale. Like I think like Morgan Stanley is the one of the leading company making the projection on the humanoid market. There could be a billion unit of humanoid and up to $5 trillion by 2050. Similar for Goldman, UBS, I think like have a lot of similar projections that this is a huge market too, because like if you think about like a machine can do the things like the human in many ways in the warehouses, in the factories, in the service sector, in our homes. That's a game changer. In the factories, like I think like a lot of if you talk to the business owner, there's a lot of just like sorting, monitoring, or just like dangerous, repetitive. Those jobs are not really ideal for human because like somebody can lose their hand like just doing that repetitive work every day. So it's more suit for like machines, and also for like some like logistic arrangement in some warehouses. The traditional industrial arm cannot do that complicated work. And you need more like generalized robotics to do that logistic. So that's where like humanoids now widely accept as the solution for the factories. And same for the service sector in the hospitals, in the hotels, the restaurants, nursing home. We're already seeing a lot of the humanoid already. But like I think like as the humanoid becomes smarter or more capable, the demand for that is gonna increase a lot. And finally, to our home, I think a lot of startups now betting on this category as well, because well, nannies, the helpers at home is super expensive, at least in the United States here. So there's going to be a lot of demand for that, doing like your laundries, dishwashing, and just organizing your home after a kid's birthday party. I'm sure like Brandon has that feeling. You definitely need something for that. So the like that's why like, we think this is a global opportunity, right? So you have a lot of startup, you have like kind of incubators developing humanoid, but so far you have this is a global opportunity where there's a demand in China, in Japan, in Germany, as well as the United States. So in China, we know China's really famous for their like manufacturing and also supply chain solutions because it's very scalable there, like in terms like previous generations of technology breakthrough, including electric vehicles, like drones industries, batteries. So you have a whole ecosystem already that's gonna enable a lot of the transformation of the next build up of the robotics. So that's why we did a quick tool. We're gonna do a quick demo later, actually, to give investor a whole picture what we have seen in China. The biggest hurdle we realized to really make this industry scalable is the cost, because so far the cost of making a humanoid is very expensive, it's very high by many estimate, like Morgan Stanley or like even look at Tesla's cost, it's like 50,000 to make a humanoid. I don't think that's going to be very affordable for even like household, right? So really like just like smartphone or like cars like electric vehicles, to really hit the mass consumer market, you have to bring the cost down, and you really need a supply chain that's going to be scalable. But when you look at components, like there's actuators, there's harmonic reducers, bearings, encoders, all kinds of components, uh, we're going to need a lot of those. We need a very scalable supply chain to make humanoid industry happen to fill the gap of for that a billion unit by 2050, right? So that's why we believe there's a lot of investment opportunity around ecosystem. So if you look at like where the opportunities are, there's like a brain, right? So there's like companies providing intelligence, operating systems for the humanoid intelligence models. Then there's integrators, companies who design and manufacturing and commercialize it. But we think at the first wave of the opportunity really lies in the body, as the body requires a very scalable components in actuation system, mechanical system, sensors, LiDARs. we have Tom like join us today. We're going to talk more about that later. And also critical materials like rare earths is now the kind of like at the news, the headlines where like but like if you listen to the earnings call FMP materials, the demand for rare earths is going to be much higher in the humanoid compared to electric vehicle. And it's very critical for a lot of future applications in drones, in many embodied intelligence applications and machines. So that makes us believe an ecosystem approach could be a very good way to think about this opportunity at an early stage. As I mentioned, there's so many companies in this ecosystem that is really underrepresented or under-owned by investor in their portfolio. Because most people, when they think about humanoid, it's Tesla, Nvidia, then bunch of like tech, Google. But we think most of the value creation is going to happen in a lot of those industrials and those component companies listed both in the United States. For example, Jabil, they partner with Aptronic. Then you also have a lot of Asia, like Japan, China, and Germany. Those companies going to represent a great portfolio solution for global investor to tap into the humanoid opportunity. That's why we create an index to really tap into this global opportunity. We define a universe of more than 3,000 company, narrow down the industry to 800. Then we select the top 50 company, their business model, their corporate filings, their available data is really showing that they're either an integrator, a brain company, or they're a body company for the humanoid ecosystem. Then we eco-weighted this portfolio. So it's 50 names, eco-weighted, so 2% each, and we rebalance that portfolio quarterly. So if you like top 10, it's going to be very dynamic because the whole portfolio is eco-weighted to really maximize the diversification across the ecosystem. So here we kind of show the 50 portfolio that we have in the KOID. So you realized a lot of the companies in the body, in the components, including the actuation system, models, motion control, harmonic drive, reducers, bearings, encoders, sensors, LiDARs, like Robosense is one of the holding. We're gonna have Tom introduce later. Critical materials rare earth company, all the three major rare earth players globally. We have the integrators, both United States and China and South Korea as well. We have brain companies. So that gives like a portfolio of both, I think like geographically and sector-wise, very diversified to tap into this unique, quite early emerging investment opportunity for global investors. So here we are, we have KOID listed in NASDAQ. We launched the KOID US back in June 4th, 2025. We launched, it's only like, I think like a couple of months, but like it's already up like 28% since inception as of September. So that's give you like idea like how things are moving. Then we definitely like Brandon, we have listed KOID in London. We have the British pound version as well, the KOIB, and also we have a euro as well in Italy. So for offshore investor and for like UCITS investor, this is another way to invest in KOID. So I'm gonna stop sharing, and my colleague's gonna play the video I mentioned for our travel and our trip in China to really give investor a more deep dive into more of the components and ecosystem happening in Asia. When we think about like the actuators and the joints and the like sensors, LiDARs are really like a lot of those are manufactured in China. But like if you look at like the software, a lot of the technologies is really like powered by NVIDIA here in the United States. So you have the United States, like I think going forward, gonna control the operating system of humanoid, where like China's gonna provide a very scalable like manufacturing and also like supply chain for the humanoid. So this is a truly global opportunity, and that's why we're gonna go to China to see a lot of very innovative solutions for the humanoid, especially around the component side. And then later, Tom's going to give us like introduction of how the LiDAR or the sensor is going to work. Maybe we can do, maybe we're going to figure out the videos later. Maybe like, I think maybe Tom, you can like, start like some like maybe give introduction of how Robosense going to disrupt this the LiDAR technology and also how that's going to change the humanoid industry going forward. I'm gonna hand it to you, Tom.
Sure. Thank you, Derek and Brendan, for having me today. So yeah, it's exciting to be here. Also, be a part of the KOID found, right? So my name is Tom Huang, and I'm the director of robotics for Robosense North America. So my job is essentially to bring perception to where it needed, right? And nowadays, that means pretty much to robotics or some kind of automation. And what does that mean? So let me show you a slide of our company introduction. Can you see my screen fine?
Yep, we can, Tom.
Sure. So yeah, so basically just a little intro about Robosense, right? So as you can see from our name, the initial idea, the founding idea of our company is to bring, sensing to robots, right? And then we're, really on our way to this trillion-dollar global industry, that's turning into AI plus robotics, which is, what KOID is all about, essentially, right? And then for Robosense, we founded about 11 years ago, back in 2014. But our first step back then was in the automotive industry, where we provide lidars and various sensors to different automotive applications. You got L2 plus ADAS, which stands for the assisted driving system, and then also L3, some robo trucks. Then also, if you are in the Bay Area or California, or maybe in Austin, Texas, you could see some robotaxi that's using our sensors as well. So that's kind of where we gain our initial traction as a company 10 years ago. But then, nowadays, especially starting last year, we, as a company, we decided to go essentially all in the other robotic space, right? So there's tons of different robotic applications that uses LiDAR, especially when we were able to cut the cost of LiDAR from let's say about close to $100,000 10 years ago to just under $1,000 nowadays, right? And then we're on the trajectory that within 2 years, we're pretty confident that we can bring the cost of one single LiDAR, maybe our cheapest LiDAR, down within the $100 range. So that is kind of what enabled us to tap into these applications, which of course includes embodied and also humanoid robots, right? And then also another simple belief is that, like what Derek just said in his presentation, is that there's eventually going to be more robots on this planet than cars, right? So that's when we're kind of shifting gears and went into this new territory. So it's really exciting time now. And then it's just a short intro of who we are. So we do LiDARs, and for those of you who are not really familiar with LiDARs, it is pretty much a 3D camera, but it's providing the reconstruction essentially of the surrounding environment to you to the sensor in real time, instead of the 2D videos or photos that camera use. So let me just show you a quick introduction of our products. to give you a better sense. So you're seeing right now, it's all these different kinds of applications that uses our LiDAR. Of course, humanoid being one of them. Yeah, so just a quick intro, and then of course, I guess there'll be a question coming up in the Q&A that I'd love to answer. Yeah, just get back to you, Derek.
And Derek, it looks like we got your video ready to roll. So why don't we'll show your video, and then to Tom's point, let's get into some Q&A.
Sounds good.
Curious about China's robotics frontier, our KraneShares team was invited to Beijing to meet innovators shaping the future of humanoid robots.
So excited. I've never been in China before, and then we're going to get to see some robots with our own eyes, so that's really, really exciting.
Here we're in Beijing. We're going to visit our first company, the Noetix Robotics. Their latest model, N2 and E1, did a great job in the humanoid marathon and the recent 2025 global humanoid robotic games.
After arriving at Noetix, we were immediately drawn into a world where robots move like humans. Founded in 2023 by a 1997-born graduate from Tsinghua University, China's MIT, this young robotics startup is already turning heads with their motion control and agility, winning medals in multiple robotics competitions.
Just look at some quick stats. It's about 1.2 meter high, and the rounding speed is about 3.5 meters per second, and it's running very fast. With single battery, probably can run for 2 hours, and it support a battery change.
We got the chance to test the robot's stability and balance firsthand, and they didn't disappoint.
No, this is abuse. Sorry.
They also stand out in perception and interaction, able to sense emotions, mimic expressions, and carry on a conversation. At the end of our visit, CFO Han Shenzhen shared the company's vision for the future of AI and humanoid robotics in China.
中国人的机器人其实在去年其实经历一个比较大的突破，就是大家在一个技术路线选择上，可能在强化学习跟 MPC 之间，大家都慢慢去选择了 RL 这个强化学习的路线。对，然后在这个之后呢，其实看到中国的人形机器人公司其实就非常踊跃的都站出来了。然后现在包括我们公司，包括其他公司，其实都会在这个整体的结构设计，然后包括后端的一个运动控制算法，然后以及未来的这样的一个大模型的大脑算法上，都会去做视觉化的一个突破。
OK， 就是主要是。您是说就是模型加数据化的这两部分？
对，其实最终我觉得，在人形机器人公司的一个核心竞争力，其实都是在后端的算法和它以及掌握的一些数据。
后端的算法加数据。
对。
After saying goodbye to Noetix, we kept adventure going, fueled by a cup of coffee from the future. No tips needed.
Fully autonomous smart retail store powered by an embodied AI robot.
This robot kiosk was brought to life by our next stop, Galbot.
Please take your drink. It's truly my honor to serve you today.
Thank you. Like teamwork.
Your order is all complete.
Amazing. No tips, right? No tips.
As what we just experienced, Galbot is dedicated to bringing intelligent robots into everyday life. Their secret weapon, a powerful AI large model that lets these robots think, adapt, and interact like never before.
and we are focused on developing general purpose robots with embodied AI large model. And so that means that our robot doesn't need any teleoperation, and they can automatically work in real scenario. Our robot is one of the very few that can participate in the scenario contest automatically. And we participate in a game called the pharmacy sorting scenario, and it won the gold medal. And the other participants, they are actually rely on the teleoperation. So even competing with those with teleoperation, we won the contest.
Our third company visit and this Tashan Technology. What's this company about?
Well, I think the first and the second companies, like we check out the humanoid like hardware and also the model.
Right.
So today with Tashan Technology, we're going to see the supply chain, especially the sensor technology.
We are the first AI tactile sensing chip in the whole world. The chips is taped out in 2020, and then they are used in every module in the fingertip used on humanoid robotics. Now these are two different types of our tactile sensors using on the robotic hands or different parts for robotics. So you can see this finger type sensor, we have each of the sensors with our own chips inside, and the proximity sensing, which is our special of the capacitive technology with non-touching of sensing. And then when it's touching, you can see very sensitive, and also the normal force and shear force also. This is a array type of the sensor. You can see the different multiple points of sensing, and also on different range, and also the same functions of non-touching proximity sensing. Our sensitivity is around 0.01 Newton. So it would sense if the object is very soft or light. It won't use a very big of the pressure to squeeze through the object.
With outstanding tactile sensors and chips, their solutions are highly applicable across everyday scenarios.
It's like a control pad. So our sensors are behind the leather. It could be done in different materials, and then to make this part of the leather doing touching controls.
Wow.
Pointing and also slide controls for controlling the volume.
Wow.
It could detect if there are also the same function, human objects or non-human objects, which is, for example, a very heavy bag. So it won't show like there are children on the seat. So this function is for telling the parents what is the situation of children on the chair, and also to alert the parents not to forget the children's inside the car.
We also had the chance to experience their robots firsthand, watching how they navigate complex spaces and interact naturally with humans. From Noetix athletic humanoids to Galbot's service-ready robots to Tashan's tactile sensing breakthroughs, it's clear that China is not just participating in the global robotics race, it's helping lead it. This company shows how quickly the field is moving from research labs to real-world applications, where robots are set to play a major role in industries and daily life. Thanks for watching. Please stay tuned for more China content. I will see you next time.
Derek, I like how you're in a personless, no driver taxi, and you don't even mention it, right?
Yeah, well, the automation and like the technology is not allowed there. It's like, as you probably experienced in Hong Kong, like Tokyo, here in Beijing, like you have the same feeling that like is where the future come, like you live in the future in some kind. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I think it's kind of funny. While you were in China, I was in South Korea meeting with some investors, and they had a robotics conference that we attended, where we've gotten to know OpenMind, a U.S. AI company, very much geared to really the point that you touched on, which is it really is the AI, the embodiment of the technology with the robot. and that's what's going to push this forward. And it's interesting to see how, even, Tom, with Robosense, the company was focused on LiDAR in automotive, and you're making that transition. And I think that's a very key, we're seeing a lot of automotively geared companies, Tesla, XPeng, a lot of these automotive companies are making that transition into humanoid robotics. And, maybe I'd be interested, Tom, from your perspective, what's that transition? How did Robosense make that transition? Is it simply, the opportunity set, the applicability that allows for a lot of these automotive companies to be making that transition into humanoid robotics manufacturing and technology?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for us, right, the founder of our company, he actually, I think he graduated with a PhD in automation. So all he wanted to do is actually about robots and automate this world. But when he founded the company 10 years ago, let's say the humanoid or the robotic scene in general, it's nowhere near what it is today, right? Mm-hmm. So he kind of had to find some ways to essentially to let the company survive. So that's when he got on the first wave of kind of automation, which is to automate some part of driving, right, from different levels from L2 to L4s. But nowadays, that's been his dream to work in this space, to work about robotics. But then also from the actual, I guess, real world scenario, kind of base is when we start to cut the cost of LiDARs, right? And not just a little, but drastically. That's when we start to sense the kind of the real potential of this market, right? So if you think about it, the LiDAR sensor essentially is a 3D camera, right? So it gives like one more dimension of information than the traditional cameras. So it got the depth information right away in LiDARs. So it's kind of like, especially for like robots and different automation tasks, using LiDAR is kind of like a cheat code, activated, right? Because if you just use traditional cameras, sure, they're great, but you need to have a really strong algorithm team, in-house to develop, essentially to transform that 2D video or images that's been captured by camera, and then you need to have very capable algorithm team to transfer that data, much like what Tesla did, right? So Tesla is using camera only for their FSD, right? But that's only possible because first of all, they got a huge amount of data to train on, because they've sold a lot of Teslas over the years. But then also second, of course, it's been known their algorithm ability is through the roof because of the investments by Elon Musk, right? So that's what made them possible by using camera only, but to do the FSD. But for other automotive companies or humanoid or just any robotic companies we talk about, you can use camera. Cameras are cheap. Cameras are great, and it's been reliable for years. But do you have the same level of data,
mm-hmm.
And then the in-house algorithm ability to do that? It's up for question, and that's where we come in. And then to answer your question, is that when we really start to cut the cost of LiDAR, and then first into sub $2,000, and now it's sub $1,000. That's where we see the true potential, and then this just huge I guess applications, numbers of applications opening up, and that's when we decided to go all in, like I said, into this space.
Yeah, it's actually I should say, again, for any questions, please email us at info@KraneShares.com, or you can obviously use the chat functionality and drop any questions. And again, for those looking for continuing education credits, SEMA, CFP, as well as CPD, please email us at CECharlieEdward@KraneShares.com. One of the questions we got from Kate up in the great state of Maine. Beautiful. If you've not visited, you definitely should. Absolutely gorgeous. Spoke about what are the materials that that go into humanoid robotics that could be considered scarce. I'll maybe take the easy part of that, Derek, and which is obviously we're seeing a lot of chat, a lot of media, a lot of attention given to rare earths recently, and obviously, this is an area where China, Chinese companies invested very early in the processing. I think that's always what's so key when we speak about raw earths. It's really the processing of those rare earths, and that's an area where there's only a limited number of companies that are in that business. Within the KOID ETF, we own 3 of them. Obviously, MP here in the U.S. has gotten a lot of attention based on the U.S. government, because obviously this isn't just about electric vehicles or humanoid robotics, but about the necessity of rare earths in military defense purposes, but which obviously makes sense to have that processing capability here in the U.S. But we also own Linus, which is an Australian company, and then in China, China Great Resources, a Shanghai-listed company, and I think this is just an example of what the ETF does for you. You might be able to buy, if you're here in the U.S., you could buy MP, but buying Linus in Australia would be very difficult. They do have a unsponsored ADR, but that ADR can go to huge premiums and discounts versus the shares we own in Australia. Is actually at a 20% discount on 20% premium, the unsponsored ADR, which is why we own Linus in Australia. And then obviously buying a company on the Shanghai Stock Exchange, almost impossible to do for a traditional investor in the U.S. to get exposure to a Shanghai-listed company like China Rare Earth. But Derek, are there other materials? I mean, obviously, as Tom spoke to, as Robosense has made that transition from automotive LiDAR to humanoid, a lot of the materials that are going into humanoid really are very similar, akin to what we see in the automotive space. But to Kate's question, are there other materials that kind of fall on that scarce list other than the rare earths, which obviously we've all been reading about recently?
Yeah, I mean, like we have rare earths in day one since we launched KOID, and with our partnership with the index provider, we realized like the rare earths is very critical according to some conversation we have with like the expert. And another area we're doing research, I think, is really around the battery side, because think about the energy density requirement and the volume requirement for putting like very like high energy density battery to a very small sized quadruped or just humanoid. That is something I think like is really now disrupted by a lot of now trade policy. You used to can't get that like globally, but now it's really is an issue for a lot of humanoid player in the United States as well. So that is something where like I think like this is the next move to really create like more high density energy battery material. Those companies can be the next phase of where the KOID can be in the future.
Yeah, yeah, and as we discovered, transporting batteries, getting the RoboStore Unitree G1 to London, you can't just carry your robotics battery onto an airplane. So some logistics issues. I think just checking here for some questions. Yeah. One of the questions is just, Derek, a lot of the companies you highlighted are in your China visit are private companies at this juncture. Obviously Unitree, we anticipate will go public by the end of this year. Going to be a very, very significant IPO, we assume, in Hong Kong. But maybe even leveraging Tom. Obviously Robosense listed on Hong Kong. You talked about the founder starting the company. I mean, what a great vision that really came to vision on his part. But at what point of the 10-year journey did Robosense go public? And maybe then Derek, you can maybe speak to our anticipation of further IPOs in this space.
Right. So we went public last year, right? Actually the first trading day of 2024. So I guess it was January 3rd last year. So it's also our 10-year anniversary. So we went. I was actually on the IPO team back then, in headquarters. Working with the CFO at the time. We went public last year on Hong Kong, and then I think like you said, Brandon, there's going to be more companies like us, right? That's working in the humanoid and robot space that's going to go public on, I guess, Hong Kong more than often nowadays than the US. But it's coming up. It's a lot of companies that's going to be it's going to go public.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why we more present private companies in the trip is we do have other footage and other conversation with public company, but I think you have to check with a lot of IR for their information disclosure. So that's why we choose not to show the footage. But we do have those footage in our company. Just give it because of the time for the time sense, we want to just make the production quickly, so show more companies. But another point is there's a lot of companies that's really happening in the private space ready to IPO, as Brendan mentioned. But also there's a lot of public companies in the KOID holding have these strategic partnership with a lot of private startups, including their tier 1, tier 2 supply chain providers. And so we think as those private companies, they raise the money, they have raised billions of capital. If they're gonna really need to scale their business going forward, doing the mass production in the next 3 to 5 years, there's actually more opportunities within their suppliers, because I think now the scalability is issue for a lot of startups. If you have to make a humanoid successful, you need a lot of data, you need a lot of units to really gather data, to really make your model probably the leading model compared to many other players. So you have that competition to be the Apple, the iOS operating system for humanoid, but all the people are going to rely on the supply chain companies, the actuators, LiDARs, and many other components to be scalable, to lead in the capacity wise. So that's why we think at this stage, investing in ecosystem, especially the opportunity around the supply chains, are the picks and shovels for the gold rush at this stage.
Yeah. I think that's an important aspect about our investment thesis is that it is an ecosystem play. Yeah, there's going to be winners, there's going to be losers, but the rare earth There's a host of that kind of selling the picks and shovels analogy really are applicable. And I think I wrote about it in today's China last night, where CloudWalk Robotics is going to go list on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, another player in the space. Shares are trading up 75% from their offering price in this proverbial gray market. One question we got, Tom, was and Robosense, you're in kind of an acronym, VLA, Vision Language Motion. This is really the brains, which is such a key part. This AI technology, it's going to be the fuel really driving this humanoid robotics growth engine. But one of the questions we got is a great one, like from a Robosense perspective. How do you assess the performance of different LiDARs? How does Robosense benchmark yourself to other competitors? I think this is kind of an interesting question, just in terms of this evolution of humans. This you alluded to the camera. We're moving from camera to this LiDAR 3D technology. How do you benchmark yourself? Where are things going further from here?
Right. So from a technical perspective, I guess the gold standard to assess any LiDAR is what we call points per second, right? So PPS. So that's essentially the frame rate of our LiDAR times the resolution of the LiDAR, right? So that's so if you ever so for those who's asking, you look for this data on the spec sheet of a LiDAR, points per second. So that will give you a rough idea of the performance of that particular LiDAR, and then you can kind of compare and contrast between different LiDARs of your choice. But we'll most LiDAR companies will keep this data public on either online, or you can just download the spec sheet if you're interested. And then I guess performance is one thing, but I guess more importantly, at least from my personal perspective, it's also about the cost, right? So if you have a high performance sensor, but it's extremely expensive, I think Derek just had a great slide where it breaks down the cost of a humanoid, from the head to the toe, right? So it is already extremely expensive. I think nowadays the question is how do you commercialize that, right? Given the price tag nowadays. So I guess cost is also important when you're trying to compare, not just LiDARs, but essentially every other components, or the whole robots in this space. Because I guess whoever that gets to commercialize first, or in like the first batch, is going to be likely the winner of the race. And like what Barry mentioned, there's going to be winners and losers, right? And I guess the ones that move faster essentially will have a higher chance to survive. It's because right now we're in this dilemma that like many manufacturing industry, so is the robots here. You need quantity first, right, to drive the cost down, to drive the manufacturing cost down, to start that scale of economy effect, right? But and then first, as an OEM, you would think, well, where's the need, right? But where's all those? Everyone knows that if you ramp up the production, you'll get cheaper products, but who to sell to, right? So it's kind of like a chicken and egg problem now. So if like us as a sensor provider, if we were able to drive our costs down, then we feel like we're contributing here to like the bigger picture as well.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's kind of related. And yeah, one question we've gotten is just, can you receive, if you'd like to receive the presentation, please email us at info@KraneShares. Definitely get you Derek's presentation, no problem. And I know, because of technical difficulties, if it's okay, Tom, we'll go a little bit longer.
Sure.
But I think one of the interesting questions, just really, aligned with what you were speaking to, is just we see players, companies like Tesla, Unitree, really in terms of who are the end, say Robosense's end customers today. Obviously, you started in automotive, transition to humanoid. You have your video showed a lot of the different functionality, and then maybe as a following Tom, Derek, who do we see the big, if we really think players like UBTech, Unitree, Tesla, what do their supply chains look like? So yeah, maybe kick things off, Tom.
Right. So for us, our largest clients now is actually maybe not something that you can think about or like guess. It's actually the automotive lawnmowers, right? So, and that's when that talk of commercialized comes in. Humanoid, it's on the, I would say, on the edge of this GPT moment, but nowadays we see commercialization in other areas first, right? The areas that are really I guess shorthanded, and that's in need of a replacement of human labor. So like lawn mowing, and also in various industrial applications as well. The AMR, AGVs, automated forklifts. That's when we're having our volumes nowadays. But we, of course, we do see a bright future for humanoids. But that's kind of up there on the horizon.
Yep.
So yeah. Also, Derek, what's your take?
Yeah. So I mean, like if you look at like the AI, the digital AI world, a lot of like leaders like OpenAI, Anthropic, XAI, they're private. But if you look at like who's providing the kind of like the computing power data centers, those are public company. Similar idea now for I think humanoid. You have a lot of private players like Figure AI, Unitree, Apptronic, so the Sanctuary, those companies private, but like if you think about their suppliers, their the company providing components for them, the sensing technology for them, the chip for them, the materials for them, those are public. Here in the United States as well, in China, in Japan, in Germany. So that's where we think is a similar play to the digital AI. So given that ecosystem is quite different from what people usually own in a traditional digital AI play, we think this is an opportunity that we just identified as an emerging opportunity. If like we don't know which one gonna win, just for the digital AI, we don't know if OpenAI, Anthropic, XAI, who's gonna win the AI game. But like we don't know if Unitree or Figure AI or anyone's gonna dominate or be multiple leaders. There's so much uncertainty around that space because it's such early stage. Everybody's developing their own model. So that's something uncertain. But like if you think about the ecosystem, the suppliers, that's more certain.
I think it's interesting. You've got Goldman Sachs had said that by 2032 they believe there'll be 500,000 humanoid robotics. Yeah, that seems pretty conservative to me. At the other hand, you have Morgan Stanley saying by 2050 there'll be 1 billion humanoid robotics. Huawei recently did a massive white paper on their vision of what the world will look like by 2035. They stated 90% of Chinese households will have a humanoid robot. So I think it's an exciting space. It really, we really took into consideration that risk element to a new opportunity set in the creation of the KOID ETF listed here in New York as well as London. And yeah, I think we're really excited. You know, Tom, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us. You know, be worth noting, Tom, it's great to see you and your career progress from coincidentally your days back here as an intern at KraneShares. So we really look forward to seeing your career progress even further now that you're part of this great company, Robosense, that we're proud to be shareholders in. And yeah, you know, really looking forward, Derek, to you know, leveraging your expertise in the space. And again, for follow-up questions for the deck, please email us at info@KraneShares. But thanks again to Tom and Derek for their great insights, and thank you for joining us today. And please don't hesitate to reach out anytime.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Brandon.